take the handcuffs off this Georgia offense and turn JT Daniels' passing attack loose. Interesting comments from Buck Belue over the week, talking about what Kirby Smart should be doing with Georgia's offense heading into the 2021 season. I know radio guys have a lot to say typically, but this is curious coming from Buck, and I say curious. You just listen to what he says. Take the handcuffs off of this Bulldogs offense and turn his passing attack loose. Um, you know, how much better would Georgia be with JT Daniels throwing it all over people versus what we've grown accustomed to see with Zamir White and the Georgia running game, which is something Kirby Smart has predicated his offense on pretty much his entire time at Georgia. I mean, how much better would Georgia be? We might be getting ready to see that in 2021. We'll see. Dean Legge from Dog Post making you a smarter Georgia fan. Buck, of course, if you're watching this, Buck Belue was the quarterback of the national championship team for Georgia back in the day. This is more than 40 years ago now. They ran more. The quarterback ran a lot, far more than they do now, and certainly didn't throw very much. He only threw 8 times in the Sugar Bowl game against Notre Dame to win the national championship, completing only one of those. It might have been 8 or 9. I can't recall off the top of my head. But, Buck's kind of point here is, hey, look, you've got a serious playmaker in JT Daniels who really does not have a lot of fear throwing the football. Turn the guy loose. Let him do his thing. I think the thing about it is that Buck's sort of criticism came from the game, the Mississippi State game to the South Carolina game. That was really the game that he was criticizing Kirby on. But when you look at what Georgia was doing on the ground that night, it was kind of hard to decide to throw the ball. They did throw it right straight down the field, but yeah, I mean, JT's production has been impressive. I mean, his worst game of the year, that from my perspective, was the Cincinnati game where he went 26 of 38 for almost 400 yards. He had an interception in that game, but he really, really stuck in there in that game. I mean, he got hit more than once. And that defense from Cincinnati is continuing to get a lot of praise. And when you watch Cincinnati, the thing that jumped out to me was their quarterback was pretty good. But when you look at what's happening now in terms of JT Daniels, 28 of 38 against State, 10 of 16 against Carolina, Missouri 16 of 27. I mean, that Carolina game, JT Daniels basically, I mean, I knew he played the bulk of that game, but I don't know if he threw in the second half or not. That game was such a blowout. But what happens if this offense is predicated on the quarterback? Because that's not been the case at Georgia since Aaron was the guy. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like Jake Fromm was the reason why Georgia was so successful, because he was not the reason. It was not predicated on him. He mattered a lot. He was important. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is he wasn't throwing for 400 yards. He wasn't throwing for 300 very often. That wasn't what his role was. Now all of a sudden you've got a guy in Daniels who can do everything Fromm did a pre-snap. It's just that he has a much higher NFL ceiling and playmaking ability. I mean, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Probably should have had a couple more interceptions. Thinking about that State game, there was maybe another game somewhere where he should have thrown a pick. But, Daniel's productivity was pretty impressive the entire season that he played. What will that mean in 2021? Particularly if you go back to what Buck is saying, take the handcuffs off. I mean, do you need to throw it 40 times to win games? And the answer to that is, yeah, when you need to throw it 40 times to win games. So, I mean, we saw twice where he got right on top of 40 throws in a game, which was the State game, which they needed every single one of his throws, all 38 of them. And then the Cincinnati game where he had 38 throws in that game, they certainly needed every single throw they had in that one. They could have won the game not driving it down the field, but with a deep ball to Burton just before the field goal attempt. I do think with Clemson right away that you're going to see if you can take advantage of better defenses. I don't know what to make of Clemson's defense right now. I still want to rewatch that Ohio State game because that was ugly. But let's not act like Daniels can't throw it the same way that Fromm can. Excuse me, that Justin can, because he can. I mean, that's something Justin's a very good thrower, but Daniels is a very good thrower too. What separates those two is Justin's playmaking ability with his feet. Daniels, if Clemson has the same type of night against Ohio State in this September against Georgia, they're going to get beat pretty bad. And because Daniels can do all those things, the deep ball, it's there. The other thing is, when you think about this Georgia offense, what has it really been missing? Generally speaking, it's been a deep ball quarterback. That's the one thing that they've been missing for a while. Again, since Aaron, that's just not been in their arsenal. I mean, you think about Daniels, his average throw. I'm just going to do it. I mean, off the top of my head here, obviously it's more than 10 yards against a throw against Cincinnati and Mississippi State. Nevertheless, completions. I mean, 401 yards against State by 28 completions is 14 yards a completion. That's not, you're not worried about first downs. Those are explosive plays almost by just period. 392 against Cincinnati, which was the best defense they faced. And you had 26 completions. That's 15.1 yards. So I don't know. I mean, if, he had almost 19 yards of completion against Mizzou and just under 14 of completion against South Carolina. That is not what you got with Jake Fromm. And moving forward, generally speaking, when you look at Georgia's quarterbacks that are coming in to the program, Brock, Carson Beck, who's there now, Brock, who's there now, and obviously Gunnar Stockton, these are guys that can make plays with their arm down the field. It's more common for them to do that than we've seen. Fromm did hit big balls, don't get me wrong, but not quite like we've seen with Daniels. So is Buck right? Does he have it right here? Is the play for Georgia to move forward with a strike it down the field offense? If you're hitting big balls down the field, everything else is going to take care of itself. That's not going to be a problem. You need to worry about establishing the run. If someone's running past you for a 60-yard touchdown on a pass play, you're in trouble. That's going to be what you're going to have to deal with right away. So Daniels definitely has swagger about himself. He's confident. But more than overused words, you're talking about a guy that just plain is getting it done in the passing game. But we will know right away. The Clemson defense is good. It's been talked about for a long time. But that secondary was a real problem against Ohio State. If Georgia can take advantage of that, that will be step one in getting where you got to go in the 2021 season. Let's talk about it more over on Dog Post. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you over on the website.